So next is John's chapter.
Yes.
On page 176.
I love this chapter. I can't even talk. I love this chapter. This is a good
so
chapter.
what happens in this chapter?
Well, this is when the boys beat up on John, Gren, and what's the other guy's name? Toad? Yeah, Gren and Toad beat up on John, and then he has that really good conversation with Noi, where there's just some juicy things said. I just really love this chapter. Yeah, so this is when Gren and Toad beat up on him because they say that John is making them look bad. Then eventually Noi finds them and tells them to stop fighting, and Noi gives John a really good perspective as to why he's getting picked on, and you know how his entitlement comes across, and I think that's so interesting. And I love when he says, you know, words won't make your mother a whore. She was what she was, and nothing Toad says can change that. You know, we have men on the wall whose mothers were whores. I just love this whole perspective part.
Right.
And you think you had it hard being a High Lord's bastard.
I marked this too.
Yeah, the armor went on. That boy Jaren is a Septon's get, and Cotter Pike is the base-born son of a tavern wench. Now he commands Eastwatch by the sea. Yes, cold and hard and mean, that's the wall and the men who walk it. Not like the stories your wet nurse told you. Well, piss on the stories and piss on your wet nurse. This is the way it is, and you're here for life. Same as the rest of us.
Right. Because then it goes... And
he's like, Tyrion was right.
Right. And it just, again, proves how young he is.
Yes.
And how really he doesn't... And how skewed his perception of the wall was. Because he thought he was going to get there with equals. And in a lot of ways, because of his upbringing, he does have way more skills that he's not understanding are like... that he had this awesome life.
Right.
Even though he thinks he had it hard.
Right. He had it bad in the circle that he was living in, but he doesn't realize how bad...
In this setting, like, he had the best life out of all of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
just because his life was worse than, like, Rob's doesn't mean...
He was still treated way better.
He's, like, learning about the world.
Yeah.
It's like was really innocent, and now he's... discovering he's changing, he's growing.
Well, he doesn't, and he has no concept of like what's outside of Winterfell, right? Like he hasn't been outside, like he doesn't understand how culturally like different like communities work and like how bad people's lives have been, and he thinks that he's had it worse because he was the bastard living in Winterfell, but I think this is such a good lesson for him to learn so early. And I wrote down John says they hate me because I'm better than they are. Like talking about more so about like how he's
because that's all he cares about.
And he says no, they hate you because you act like you're better than they are. They look at you and they see a castle-bred bastard who thinks he's a lordling. You're no lordling, remember that. You're a Snow, not a Stark. You're a bastard and a bully. And I just think that's such a good lesson for John to learn now that he is being a bully. Like, even though he thinks that he's doing what's right and, like, showing off his skills and, like, really, like, I gotta, like, win this game, like, he's being a bully. He's not being a team player. And
well, this is when he ultimately decides that he has to make these men his brothers. Like Noi says, these people will kill you in the middle of the night. Like, it's not about competition or being the strongest or the best here. Like, it's about banding together as a unit. I think that's so cool. And
he points out that you're not training. Like, you can say, like, you guys are training, but, like, if you, like, put an edge on your sword, they'd be dead meat. That you're not in there training with them. Obviously, your skill level is higher. You leave them nothing. You shame them. Does that make you proud? Like...
Right. Well, and I don't know if this is it... yes. Just want to skip forward to the end of this chapter, which is the best ever. Where he goes to Rob. I'm sorry about your wrist. Rob used the same move on me once. Once, only with a wooden blade. It hurt like 7 hells, but yours must be worse. Look, if you want, I can show you how to defend that. And then this is like the beginning of him and Alistair's. And well, they already don't like each other, but this really seals the deal. And he goes, Lord Snow wants to take my place now. I'd have an easier time teaching a wolf to juggle than you will training these aurochs. And then John goes, I'll take that wager, Sir Alistair. I'd love to see ghosts juggle. Brilliant. And even Tyrion laughs.
That was a grievous error, Lord Snow. He said, at last, in the acid tones of an enemy.
I love it so much. Oh, and then this is right when he finds out that Bran's alive too, and that's just so great. I just feel like Jon changes in literally one chapter. He's like, he accepted the lesson and applied it, and he's gonna rule here. Like, he's gonna be awesome.
But it also shows the way that Jon views the world and views people too, because everybody was like, I'm really sorry, like, he's gonna be crippled, and Jon's like, he's alive!
Right, that's all that matters. Yeah.
Like, he doesn't see that. I mean, obviously, that will set in, and, like, he'll see it as a hardship, and he ends up asking Tyrion to make him a saddle and all of those things.
Right.
But in Jon's head, like, he doesn't see it that way. Like, he's alive. That's all that matters.
Right.
Doesn't matter, like, what his life's gonna be like.
He's not lost forever.
Yeah. Yeah, which is cool.
Good chapter.
All right, Eddard again.
Oh, yes. Gosh, so much Eddard.
I know. This was a Eddard heavy.
Yes.
I can't remember. Oh, this is where he finds out that Catelyn is at King's Landing.
Yes.
And sees her.
Yes. Well, and then, he opens with this, with the meeting of the council.
Right.
And they're talking about this big joust party they're going to have. And where he says, I'm surrounded by flatterers and fools, the king had insisted. Ned looked down the council table and wondered which were the flatterers and which the fools. He thought he knew already. We are but 5, he pointed out. Yeah, that's so interesting. It's kind of like, oh, gosh, you just feel so bad for Ned. He like has no power. He can't do anything. He's kind of just Robert's puppet, and he has no respect for Robert and doesn't agree with him, and then he tries to change things with these council people, but he comes to find out that there's absolutely nothing that he can do.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting when he's talking to Renly, again giving you a view into like what Robert used to be, because he says, you must forgive me, but sometimes you look the very image of your brother Robert, and obviously visually we know from seeing what we watched, like, if you didn't get this, and I don't remember whether he says this in the show or not, but if you didn't know that was the case, like, that comparison is so far off.
Well, and Sansa describes Renly as beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, a stunning human being.
And you must forgive me. And then he says, a poor copy, Renly said with a shrug. And then Littlefinger says, though much better dressed.
Ugh, gosh, I just really imagine a slimy voice in
Lord Renly spends more on clothing than half the ladies of the court.
Yep.
Is that the first instance that somebody mentions of him being kind of ladylike?
I think so, and I think it makes sense too, because I bet Littlefinger knows.
Oh, I'm sure he knows. Well, I'm sure he's been involved in it. I'm sure that Littlefinger knows, like, and most people do. But this is the first, like, time that it's come, like, somebody said something where I was like, is this the first mention of him being a little more ladylike than he is manly?
Well, this whole first section before they start, it's like, Ned is just, like, not in the mood for any of this small talk. He's like, I don't care about what Renly spends his money on. I don't care about any of this. Can we just get on with this meeting? And I just...
And Littlefinger wants to know how much Ned has heard about him. Like, did Kat talk about me? Like, did Brandon talk about me? Or I guess he doesn't ask if Brandon talked about him, but he said she has. And he said, I understand you knew my brother Brandon as well.
Yeah.
And rather too well. I still carry a token of his esteem.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What page are you on?
192. Did he get scarred or something?
Who are we talking about again?
Littlefinger and Brandon Stark?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember? Littlefinger dueled.
I know, but I didn't know he got scarred.
Yep. Yeah.
Did we know that? Or is this the first instance of that? I don't know.
Did Kat say that? I don't think Kat said that he got scarred.
This might be the first instance of that, because he says...
Yeah, I think this might... correct us if we're wrong, if this isn't the first time.
Yeah, let us know.
That they say this in the book.
Because he says, rather too well, I still carry a token of his esteem. Did Brandon speak of me too? Often and with some heat, Ned said.
Yeah.
But that's all that they talk about. So maybe it was mentioned. I don't remember that. So you guys let us know if that was mentioned before.
If not, I'm sure we'll find out what exactly that means. But I also love their little Tissy 2 on 197.
Tissy 2?
Yes. This is when they're talking, definitely like Littlefinger versus Ned moment. He finds out that Catelyn's being kept at the brothel.
Mm-hmm.
And Ned goes, it was his final insult. Brandon was too kind to you, Ned said as he slammed the small man back against a wall and shoved his dagger up under the little pointed chin beard. My lord, no, an urgent voice called out. He speaks the truth. And I just love this moment. I mean, it sucks that Littlefinger is correct and Ned couldn't just mess him up. But
right.
There's just so much tension between the two of them. It is ridiculous.
Like, I want to know...
And how much it must suck when Catelyn says, I trust him, he's on our side after this encounter.
And after his experience, like, with Brandon, like, hearing the stories from his brother and all of that.
Right, exactly.
No, it's crazy.
Roast.
Then, yeah. See if I have any more notes for the rest of this.
I have a couple highlighted things, passages that I liked.
Okay.
Oh gosh, this with, what did they call him? Petar? Petar Baelish. I'm desperately sentimental, sweet lady. Best not tell anyone. I have spent years convincing the court that I am wicked and cruel, and I should hate to see all that hard work go for naught. Ned believed not a word of that, but he kept his voice polite as he said, you have my thanks as well, Lord Baelish. Oh, now there's a treasure, Littlefinger said excitingly. What the heck?
He's so slimy.
That's literally what I wrote on my note card. I wrote slime ball. Like, what the heck? That is disgusting that he said that. I was just like, oh my gosh, how do you live with yourself? Just ridiculous.
Ugh. It's so sad that Catelyn wants to see the girls and she doesn't get to. Like, she's come all that way and they're right there.
I know. Well, and I think it's so after she kind of shares with Ned everything, like with the Lannisters and how she wants to out them and all these things, when Ned brings up war, and it's on the last page of the chapter, and she's like terrified that could happen, and Ned, it will not come to that, Ned promised her, praying it was true. He took her in his arms again. The Lannisters are merciless in the face of weakness, as Aerys Targaryen learned to his sorrow, but they would not dare attack the north without all the power of the realm behind them, and that they shall not have. I must play out this fool's masquerade as if nothing is amiss. Remember why I came here, my love. If I find proof that the Lannisters murdered Jon Arryn, ... And he trails off, but yeah, if there's gonna be a war, I don't know. I think in this moment I'm wondering if Ned actually believes he can keep a war from happening.
Well, that's the very last line of the chapter is his thought, and he says, when I know the truth I must go to Robert, is what he says to her, and then in his head he says, and pray that he is the man I think he is, and not the man I fear he has become. Yeah. And so I think, no, I think he fully thinks that if he can't get Robert on his side, that all is gone. But he's not going to tell Catelyn that because...
No, because she
needs hope.
She's struggling. But, yeah. Ooh. Trouble on the horizon.
Killer. Alright, Tyrion's chapter.
Tyrion. So, this is when he is getting drunk, and Mormont is basically asking him as a Lannister and a nobleman to go back and express to the king and queen that the Night's Watch is really suffering and they need to send people, like, look at their ranks. It's terrible.
Right.
And I really like this chapter overall. Thematically, I really think it shows a lot about... I mean, we already know Tyrion's smart, but listening to him have this conversation with Mormont, and Mormont recognizing a lot of those awesome things in Tyrion as well, showing him that he has such an awesome potential to lead, and I think really foreshadows for how well he will do when he actually is given the opportunity to do that. I highlighted some of the dialogue in this scene.
Yeah, I think Aemon's view of him, and Aemon saying that,
You mean Mormont?
No. Maester Aemon.
Oh, yeah.
on page 205.
Oh, yeah.
Where, Mormont is saying things to him.
Yeah.
You do mock us, blah, blah, blah. And Tyrion says, we all need to be mocked from time to time. Let us not take ourselves too seriously. And they call him a small man, and Aemon chimes in and says, I think Lord Tyrion is quite a large man. Mm-hmm. It says he spoke softly, which I think is interesting. I just think he's so wise. Mm-hmm. And I think he is a giant come among us here at the end of the world. And Tyrion said gently, I've been called many things, my lord, but giant is seldom among them. Mm-hmm. And he says, nonetheless, I think it's true. And I just think that's very interesting, like, back and forth there. Because it is true. Like, he is a giant come among them. Like, he becomes one of the superpowers, like, long down the road. Like, he does become one of the figureheads of one of the giants.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, did they... Yeah, I liked that. I really liked that interaction a lot. And I thought that was really neat. And then he goes back up to the top of the wall, right? To visit Jon one last time. Mm-hmm. They run into each other and he ends up... Well, this is the whole reason he came, was to be at the top of the wall.
Right, to piss off the edge of the world.
Yeah. So, and this is when Jon asks him if he can do something for Bran. And I love... Because at this point, Jon's already realized what a friend... I mean, he already knew what a friend in Tyrion that he has, but it was definitely confirmed after that interaction that he had with Nora. That what Tyrion said about the Night's Watch was completely true, and he was really helping him and being a good, honest friend to him. And so that's why, obviously, he feels comfortable enough to ask Tyrion to do something for Bran. And when Tyrion's like, I have no idea what I could give Bran.
Right.
And then when Jon says, then give your words to Bran too. You're asking a lame man to teach a cripple how to dance, Tyrion said. However sincere the lesson, the result is likely to be grotesque. Still, I know what it is to love a brother, Lord Snow. I will give Bran whatever small help is in my power. Thank you, my Lord of Lannister. He pulled off his glove and offered his bare hand, friend. So cute.
It is cute.
I just loved it so much. I love all of their moments. I want them to be friends forever.
BFFs. Forever and ever and ever. No, it was good.
And then this is when Jon was telling Tyrion, they're talking about, frick. Benjen. They're talking about Benjen.
He's going to go find him.
Yes. Yeah. And then the chapter ends with Tyrion, I believe Tyrion said, but what he thought was, and who will go find you?
He ends his chapter so poignantly.
So ominous.
And so much with, like, a thought inside their head. Like, throughout the whole chapter, you see few thoughts, but often the chapter ends with, like, a very poignant, very deep thought.
Yes.
And I think that's so interesting every time.
Yeah.
You want to just do one more?
I feel like it's a good foreshadowing for them too, like for what is gonna become of Jon as well. And we just see how hard-headed he is already. How hard-headed he is, and how he wants to save everyone, and how he has this intense hero complex. I think, already starting to form. Now that he's accepted that he is entitled and that he's going to...
that he has a place.
That he's going to be a brother of the Night's Watch. Yeah. Now he's developing the hero complex that we will so quickly grow to know and love.
Yes. Ridiculous.
Yes.
Alright, you want to just do Aria's chapter?
Yes, let's do Aria really quick. Queen Bee.
Aria on 215. And what happens in this chapter?
Is this when she talks to Ned?
I think so.
Yes. This is a good chapter. Yeah. This is when, basically after she's been hiding herself in her room, and I think she gets into a tiff with Septim Mordain, and then is running into her room, and Septim tries to come into her room. She's like, absolutely not. That's not happening. And just her feeling... I mean, we get a glimpse into just how alone she feels here in King's Landing. Like, the only person that she really has to talk to that really understands her is Ned, and Ned's busy with the fools and the flatterers.
Yeah.
Not to say that he's not there for Aria, of course he is, but
she's not.
She's going, yeah.
It's not she's in that time. Like
she has to see Septim more Dane than she does Ned. How unfair!
Well, in that time, girls didn't see their fathers that much in general. Like that's not. Ned is much more involved in his daughters' lives than many fathers.
Totally.
In this fandom, and she says it says no one talked to Aria. She didn't care. She liked it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she's just. I mean, she's really going through this intense grief.
Yeah.
Which is she thought of Micah again, and her eyes filled with tears. Her fault. If she had never asked him to play swords with her. Just so sad. She's like bearing a lot of the weight of what has happened here.
Right.
And just sulking in her room, hating Sansa, hating Septim Mordane.
She's being almost a teenager. She's not quite a teenager, but she's yelling through her door. And then this is when her dad finds out about Needle.
Yes. And then
I don't want to be a lady.
I know. I highlighted so much of this dialogue between them because I loved it, and I love how he compares her to Lyanna, because I know this was something that you guys had commented on in an earlier book club episode. But when he said, Aria, you have a wildness in you, child, the wolf blood my father used to call it. Lyanna had a touch of it, and my brother Brandon more than a touch. It brought them both to an early grave. Lyanna might have carried a sword if my lord had allowed it. You remind me of her sometimes. You even look like her. And Aria goes, Lyanna was beautiful. Everybody said so. It was not a thing that was ever said of Aria. She was, Eddard Stark agreed, beautiful and willful and dead before her time. I love it. Oh, I love it. Aria, what did you think you would do with this needle? Who did you hope to skewer? Your sister, Septim Mordane? Do you know the first thing about sword fighting?
Sticking with the
like literally as naturally as it is. Like, what the heck were you actually
like,
gonna do with this sword, Aria? Like,
and I love nobody is retorts back, stick them with the pointy end.
Yeah, seriously, like nobody is threatening you with this sword right now, honey. Super confused at what's going on. But ultimately love that they have this moment and he decides to, let Syria train her.
And this is, you hear Ned, like, speak illy of Cersei when he's like, he's like, grieve for your friend, but don't blame yourself. The murder lies at the Hound's door, him and the cruel woman he serves.
Yes. Well, he also says, too, and I wrote this at the end, and I don't think I highlighted it, but he said, this is the chapter where Ned said lies have honor. Lies can have honor. Which is another R plus L equals J theory to me. Because obviously it's just another, I think, clue into that he has a lot of secrets and that he's hiding
we
things
all
from
lie,
people.
her father said. Or did you truly think I thought that Nymeria had run off?
Yes. Yeah. So,
yeah.
A lie is okay if it has honor, basically. Thanks, Ned, for letting us know.
The
more you know.
This line made me think of you when she says, I can keep it, she said, for true.
For true? For true? That's so mean. I hate you, but I love you.
I love him letting her use the sword, and I love that like moment where Aria, I feel like this is the first time where she really feels like somebody is on her side besides getting, since she got Needle.
Right.
I feel like it's the first time that she really is like, my dad's on my side. Like, there's more than, like, there's people on my side.
Right. Like, now she's going to learn how to fight.
Right.
And so all she really needs is, her and Needle. You're going to take over the world.
The steel must be part of your arm. Can you drop part of your arm?
Yeah. Sirius is super cool. Yeah. I mean, he was really cool in the show, but he's super cool in the book as well. And I hope that we get more of him.
Yes.
As the chapters move on. And I think that death is going to be even more devastating. I forgot that happens
at the end of the chapter.
Yes. And they have their first lesson and everything. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to make his death a lot more intense, and I'm sure it will be Arya's point of view, and that's going to be sad. Because I feel like we didn't get to know him that well in this show. Definitely alluded to his importance in her life, and she calls back to him a lot, talking about her trainer and all the respect and stuff she had for him. But yeah, I'm excited to get to know him better because he's super cool.
All right, perfect. Well, we're going to wrap up there for today on page 225. But stay tuned. We will see you soon. Here, you want to cheers?
Yeah. Chapters.